Hey, all right. How you doing? Salutations and all that good stuff. Welcome to Soft Roots Lounge. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if it's your first time, double welcome. This is where we talk about what lives underneath the surface. It's a space intended for the things we don't always stop to notice, the parts of life that just keep moving, even when something feels off, right? So I appreciate you being here. In the last episode, I guess I'm calling them episodes, we talked about boundaries, not as rules to control other people, but as a way to protect yourself, kind of like a shield, right? I think I said that. We talked about how boundaries reveal where peace has been uneven and how they're less about conflict and more about clarity, right? So that's kind of dealing with the outside world. But now I kind of want to look more within, right? Because once we set up those boundaries for the outside world, now we got to ask, what are we protecting, right? So, how do we treat ourselves when no one else is involved? That's the question that I kept arriving to. How do you speak to yourself when something hurts or feels confusing or doesn't make sense yet? Because I know how I talk to myself, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But that's what I've been thinking about lately: self love. And honestly, it's not an idea that I used to take seriously. I've heard it my whole life, and I just really couldn't understand that concept. I was just like, yeah, like I love myself. Yeah, obviously, boom, bang. But it's easy for me to confuse liking and loving in that sense, right? Because loving requires a lot more. I didn't always understand self love. It always felt vague to me, or maybe some kind of performative action. Like it was something that people would say when they don't know what else to say. Hey, just keep loving yourself. Just hang what all right. But my experiences with self love look different. For me, well, I guess recent discoveries, yeah. Loving yourself is showing up for yourself the way you would for someone that you care about, right? It's about being present. It's giving yourself the same patience, grace, and understanding that you so freely and willingly give to others, loved ones, friends, all that stuff. It's more than just liking yourself, it's an acceptance of all of you. And even that wording feels off sometimes because you think about the good and the bad about you. We're influenced by so much behaviors, patterns, traumas, experiences, conditionings we didn't choose. And that kind of puts that line between good and bad, right? For me. So instead of saying good and bad, I like to think of it in terms of strengths and areas of growth, areas of improvement, areas that just need a little bit more care, a little bit more nurturing. When I approach myself that way, it kind of feels like a blanket of comfort instead of like a judgmental finger wag. You know what I mean? When I challenge a negative thought instead of letting it run the show, that's self love, or me, an element of it. You know, self love isn't just about buying yourself a little treat. Okay. Now, we fully endorse treats here. Okay. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself. What I mean is that it sometimes is a little bit more than just going out and, getting an unnecessary coffee that I can't pronounce for $20 because you feel sad today. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's just a symptom of it, I guess. It's just part of it. It goes deeper than that. It's sitting with yourself. It's listening, comforting that part of you that still needs to feel safe. It's that part of you that still needs reassurance, still needs to know that it doesn't have to earn love to get love. I often think of myself as a child, right? That and I just now have a beard and responsibilities. Shout out to Rugrats. Just things to do, people to answer to, just moving through life, but I still feel like a child because that childlikeness never disappeared, just adapted it and it learned how to survive the environment that we're placed in. Pick up new rules, new customs, new expectations. And somewhere along the way, we forget what it was like to be a child once, or at least we reminisce on it and try to remember. It's not about being immature. It's about that youthfulness, right? When you're a kid, everything is brand new. Everything is exciting and scary and all these raw feelings, right? Just firing at different angles and it's confusing. When I look at my inner child, I'm looking at the source of all those raw emotions. The unfiltered reactions, the joy, the fear, the panic, that need for reassurance. Hmm. And I've realized that me in my current state, it's my job to process those emotions now. I don't know who decided that was a good idea. No one else's but mine. It's my responsibility. And that's how I've started thinking about parenting myself. I've heard this somewhere in the grapevine that we, in a way, parent ourselves now. I'm not too proficient on that, but so I won't go super deep into that, but it kind of resonated with me a little bit, kind of that guidance, that authority figure, right? That person you look to feel safe and like you know what you're doing, you big, you grown. Now I got to be grown for myself. We talk about the inner child like it's a separate version of us, but really is part of the same system. It's balance, right? And once I started loving myself this way, something else kind of shifted. I didn't just love others better. I started showing people how I needed to be loved, or at least that's what I'm practicing. And this is a concept that gets a little uncomfortable when we talk about it because loving yourself can feel selfish at times, right? Sometimes it kind of is. Sometimes you just got to go away with yourself. And I don't mean like physically relocating every time. Like I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm going to Japan. Like, okay. uh, but that's still okay. But like it's more than just a physical relocation sometimes, right? Most of the time it's an internal process. It's choosing to be with yourself on this current leg of your journey, whatever that may be. I like to think of it as a recharge retreat, right? I got to retreat so I can recharge, right? Or else I'm whooping feet. I'm not going to be okay. It's easy to get distracted by the demands of the external world. We're conditioned to move fast. When something disturbs you and you're sitting with it and it's just lingering, you just got to get over it and move on. It is what it is. Boy, I hate that. It is what it is. What does that even mean? For some of us, it's not that simple. Sometimes, present company included, myself, we rush through our own process before we even understand what's happening. For me, it was to escape that discomfort. Loving yourself in those moments can be hard. It can feel like isolation because it doesn't always involve other people. They can only do but so much. Having a support system that you trust is very important. I'm not saying that other people can't be involved. Having a strong support system, it really matters. But we don't always have access to that. Not in the moment, right? That doesn't mean we don't deserve care. I just kind of think of that as a growth regulation, right? We don't always need the answers, Sway. We don't always need to understand what's happening right away. That's the goal. Sometimes we just need to be present enough to guide whatever comes up. So, think about a time when like a friend or a loved one came to you and they was just having an awful day. I suck. I'm terrible and everyone hates me. In that moment, you're not going to look at them and say, "Yeah, you're right. You do suck. You are terrible and everyone does hate you, including me. Surprise." That's you're a horrible you're a horrible friend if you do. No, you meet them with curiosity. What's going on? With compassion. There. It's okay. Let it out. With empathy. Damn, I feel that. And most importantly, presence. You just there. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't know what to say, and all you got is a bouquet of clumsy words, you sit there and present them clumsy words. Uh, uh, that sucks. I'm sorry. You don't know what to say sometimes. That's okay, but you there. And chances are, I'm willing to bet that you're happy to do it because it's somebody you care about. So why is it so hard to do that for ourselves? I think about this. I decided to experiment. I'm going to tell you a little story. Not too long ago, I had myself a little emotional crisis, right? It was one of those, I'm tough, but I got to go cry in the car for about 35, 45 minutes. I needed time with myself. I was feeling overwhelmed to the brim. So I went for a walk. I physically relocated because I wanted to be outside. I needed more space. And it did create space for every negative thought that I had, the self deprecating, dismissive, fear based, and soaked in regret thoughts, all that stuff right under my skin, just gnawing at me. And instead of fighting it, which I normally do, I decided I was going to talk to it. That little gnawing voice in my head that sounds an awful lot like me. It's not crazy if it works. If anybody tells you otherwise, they are not good people for advice. Okay. If it works, it's not crazy. For me, the crazy thing that I've normalized now is I've got to name things because naming something gives it shape. It grounds it instead of being abstract, right? So that little gnawing voice in my head, I named him Charles. I'm going to hold for laughter. You know, his name is Charles. So I sat down on this bench. I said, Charles, what is your problem? Why are you saying all these nonsense things to me? And he just let me have it. All that fear and doubt and shame and anger, all that ugliness, that darkness, that parts of me that I didn't really love that much was coming out like a TED talk with more aggression. And in return, I just sat with it and I gave him honesty. I acknowledged all of that. I didn't give myself empty platitudes. No, hang in there, pal. Look on the bright side. Shut up. What are you? I'm in a crisis. That doesn't help. I had to face those fears with him, acknowledge them because they are real. Whether they are really like, whether the situation is really that bad or not, those feelings are real. And the only reassurance I could give Charles was this. I said, look, we'll learn from this, we'll make a plan, we'll strategize ways to improve. I wasn't trying to fix Charles, I wasn't trying to fix myself, I was trying to understand. I felt like a scientist, right? Observing behavior, noticing patterns, creating a hypothesis, running an experiment, analyzing the results, making adjustments, repeat the process. Eventually, I noticed a pattern. It's so obvious. It's not like a new discovery, but when something triggers my internal alarm, my brain immediately opens 100,000 tabs. Worst case scenarios, cross referencing past failures, and then generating worst case scenarios, assigning emotions from my inside out department. They're all the same. And it rolls out the red carpet for our keynote speaker, freaking Charles. And I usually believe him. He's very passionate. But this time, I only believe but so much because Charles represents that inner child for me. He's that raw emotional processor. He experiences things very intensely. He's not bad. I need Charles. He reminds me what matters. He needs protection. He needs boundaries. He needs reassurance. He just really wants to make sure nothing bad happens and then he prepares for when it does or if it does. So, yeah, I love you, Charles. But sometimes Charles be doing the most. And that's self love to me. Taking care of the parts no one else has access to all the time. Because people can't love you. Well, people can't love what you don't understand. And they can't meet your needs if you don't know how to guide them. It's like walking in a room, a dark room, with nothing but a flashlight looking for the light switch. You're going to bump into some things. You're going to cuss out that little side table because it smacked this mess out your pinky toe. And that's okay. We just got to keep moving towards the light because we know that switch is in there. So when I talk about self-love, I'm not talking about overindulgence. I'm not talking about pretending everything is fine. I'm talking about responsibility. The responsibility to stay with yourself when things get uncomfortable, to slow down instead of rushing your own healing, to stop abandoning yourself just because the world is loud or impatient or wants you to move on before you're ready. Loving yourself can feel selfish sometimes. It can feel like isolation, like stepping away internally to regulate, to listen, to make sense of what's coming up. But that space matters because when you treat yourself with the same curiosity, the same compassion, and the same presence you'd offer someone you love, something shifts. You stop fighting your emotions. You stop trying to silence those parts of you that are scared. You start to try to understand them. Even the parts that panic, even the parts that talk a little too loud, even the parts where they're doing the most. It's not weakness, that's information. You're telling yourself something. And when you learn how to sit with yourself in this way, you don't just become kinder to yourself, you become clearer about what you need. Clearer, words are hard, okay? Clearer about what you'll tolerate. Clearer about how you want to be loved and how you protect your peace. That's what self-love looks like for me. It's not fixing. It's not forcing, just staying present. And as I move toward that light, like I said, you're going to bump into some things on the way, but my job is not to fix. My job is to see what comes up to the surface and guide it to where it needs to go or hold on to it for a little bit longer before I find it where it needs to be. So that's what self love is for me. I'm curious to know what it is for you because one thing I do know about love, I don't know anything substantial, but I do know that love is something that we all understand conceptually, but it's so unique because we personalize it. It looks different for all of us. So I'm curious to know what that looks like for you. And I want to know what the name of your voice is. If you don't have a name for it, what would you name your voice? Freaking Charles. All right. Well, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming. You're always welcome here. I always look forward to you. And as always, grow strong, my friends. Stay rooted and love yourself.